I am Heather Paris, and I teach families how to be happier and healthier. That's the simple explanation. These are all of my credentials. You're welcome to read all of that stuff. But I teach people how to create happy, healthy families. And I know a little bit about families. Some of you might be wondering how I'm a mom of 6-ish. Yeah, I have 3 stepkids, 3 biological kids, and then 4 kids that I've taken into my heart and into my home. 3 of them have moved out and are on their own now and doing very, very well. And my husband and I just took in 1 more homeless kid. So 2 of our kids are older and out on their own. So we have 4 kids at home plus the 1 extra bonus kid. So we have 5 kids at home. And guess what? They're all teenagers. Yeah. I get my hair dyed regularly, let me tell you. 5 teenagers. Besides being a mom of 6 and a speaker and a neurolinguistic programmer and a marriage educator, I also write a blog. It's published in the Citizen newspaper in Auburn. It's been in magazines and newspapers and all that stuff. And besides that stuff, I'm also a zombie slayer. Do we have any zombie fans here? No? You all hate zombies? Good. I hate zombies too. That's why I slay them. A zombie is a person who moves very slowly. Something just beeps over here. Very slowly and is not aware of what's happening around them, or they're in denial about what's happening around them. And they're rushing here and there, trying to get to class or work, and they're so tired at the end of the day they just veg out in front of the television. And then they fall asleep and they wake up and do it again and again and again. I know a little something about zombies because I was one. Welcome, everyone. There's stuff on the chairs. Just grab some stuff. Now, because I was a zombie and I'm a zombie slayer, I can recognize a zombie. Do we have any here? I didn't think you'd admit it. So, somebody said yeah. We're gonna play a little game just to make sure that none of you are zombies. So, I want you all to close your eyes. We're just going to do a quick little test. Don't worry, I promise zombies won't come in and attack. Everyone close your eyes. I'm going to ask you some questions, and all I want you to do is raise your hand. Okay, don't say your answers out loud. Keep your eyes closed. Everyone's eyes closed? All right. Raise your hand if you know what color shirt you have on right now. Most of you, not all of you, but most of you. Keep your eyes closed. No peeking. Raise your hand if you know what color the walls are in here. Don't peek. Oh, not very many of you. Raise your hand if you know what color the door is that you walked in to get into this room. Even fewer. Raise your hand if you know what color underwear you have on. Sir, I said no peeking. All right, and one more. Raise your hand if you know what color the person next to you, what color their underwear is. All right. For those 3 of you, please do not bother to friend me on Facebook, okay? I don't want to know why you know the guy next to you is underwear, but you guys are done. Maybe, but I won't. Don't worry, I'm not going to admit and tell anyone who raised their hand to that one. Might be surprised, though. So why is this exercise important? It's important because that's exactly what a zombie is. He doesn't know what's going on around him. We're so busy rushing around and doing things that we forget to really take in our environment and fully engage and be present. Does that make sense? Isn't that baby cute? We're in a trance. We spend a lot of time in a trance. We're surrounded by a world that's vastly unnoticed. It's springtime. There's flowers. There's beauty everywhere, and we just don't see it. We miss smiles when people smile at us. We miss all this great stuff. We sit around and watch other people do exciting things on TV, like the Travel Channel. It sounds good in theory, but why are we sitting there watching other people travel? Oh, wait, this is my favorite one. Cake Boss. I've never actually seen the show, but who's seen the Cake Boss? How many of you have eaten those cakes? You know, what we watch people do amazing things all the time, but we forget to engage. And I know what it's like to be a zombie because I was one. That's me slaying the zombie. Everyone all day has been asking me about these shirts. What's up with the zombie thing? I'm like, I can't tell you now. You've got to come to my speech. I want to tell you my story. My story started, well, it started 42 years ago, but we'll fast forward because we don't have all night. So when I was 22, I got married and completely disillusioned. I thought, wow, you're getting married, it's all beautiful and wonderful, and I'm going to have a baby, and it'll look like the Gerber baby, and it's all going to be perfect. Does everyone know what I mean by the Gerber baby? Okay. It was unreal. It was so different, you know. So my first husband was an alcoholic. He was 14 years older than me. I was 22. And then my daughter came along, Madison. She's 19 now. And, you know, 19 years ago when I had her, she had colic. And I had postpartum depression and an alcoholic husband. Doesn't sound like a very fun life, does it? It was pretty rough. You know, colic. She literally screamed bloody murder for like 3 solid months. She didn't stop. And I was 22 and knew everything, so I didn't need advice, and I was too embarrassed to tell anybody that I had married an alcoholic, or that I didn't know what the hell I was doing with this baby, who came out with a gigantic head, by the way. Her head was so big, I say all the time, she was 6 pounds head, 9 ounce body. Her head was so big they had to do like ultrasounds on her brain to make sure she was okay. It didn't look right. I'm like, what's wrong? You know, you got to fix that. That's not right. And then I felt horribly guilty because my baby came out, and I'm like, what's wrong with it? Instead of like, I love you. You know, there was a lot going on. It was a challenging time. Then my husband decides to tell me he's also been doing cocaine. I'm like, oh my God, cocaine? That's horrible. What's wrong with you? Well, he did the cocaine because then he could drink more. I didn't even know what an alcoholic was at that time. I started going to Al-Anon, and Al-Anon was super cool, except for they taught detachment, and detachment was stupid to me at that time. Detachment was like, are you crazy? You mean to tell me that you want me to go home and just mind my own business and do my own thing and disregard my husband? Well, it's his problem. It's his disease. It's his this and that. I'm like, well, I didn't get married to live separately. I got married to be a couple. I didn't understand at that time. Al-Anon's a great thing. But it wasn't when I was 22 and had a screaming baby with a big head. So one day I'm sitting at home, and I'm sitting in the rocking chair, and Madison's in my arms, and she's just screaming. And I'm crying so hard. I'm rocking back and forth and crying so hard, and my tears are falling onto her face. And I'm sitting there saying, how can I jump out the window? How can I get the window? Because we're up on the 3rd floor. How can I get this window open and jump out and kill us both? And I had never been suicidal, and I wasn't really suicidal. Obviously, I didn't do it. I'm still here. But that's the only thing I wanted at that time. I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted it all to stop. Life was chaos. I had no control over anything. But then something that I thought might be good happened, and that was that my husband decided he had a problem. Hey! So I brought him to rehab. Oh, this rehab was beautiful. God, I wished I'd had a problem because it was so nice. I'm like, I want to be an alcoholic. This is lovely. I could use a 28-day escape, too. So I bring him to the rehab. It's beautiful. It's out in the woods. There's ponds and Zen gardens and amazing place, right? So he's there, okay, great, getting help. We're being supportive, this and that. And then one day, his counselor calls me. And she says, I'd like you to come in and have a session with me and your husband. Okay, sure, I'm all on board. Yay, team, we're going to get him better, fix him right up. So I go in, and that's when he admitted about the cocaine in the counselor's office. And the counselor said, well, he wants to let you know the full scope of the problem. And I've invited you in so that we can create a safe environment for him to tell you this. So I sat my baby down in her car seat on the floor, and he admitted that he had been doing cocaine so he could drink more and stealing checks out of the back of my checkbook. No wonder we didn't have any money. And I freaked out. That's probably the first time I ever really lost it. I mean, I was just crying and yelling and, what the hell are you thinking? Why are you doing this? And the counselor said, Mrs. Maloof, that was my name at the time, why are you so angry right now? I said, why wouldn't I be? My husband just told me he is doing cocaine. And she said, but that's not his drug of choice. And cocaine is no different than alcohol. A drug is a drug. And I said, my ass, that's totally different. Alcohol is legal. Cocaine is illegal. It's expensive. And it's just wrong. I'm 22 years old. I have a 2-month-old baby. And you're telling me that it's okay? One is the same as the other? I didn't know a lot of things that day. Pretty naive. But there were a couple of things I did know. Number one, something had to change. Number two, I always wanted to help people, but this wasn't the way. And number three, when I do decide to help people, it's not going to be as a drug counselor. No way. Because I couldn't sit there and tell somebody with a straight face, why are you upset? That's no big deal. Just a little cocaine. Okay. So, I changed my life. Dumped that one. Made a few more mistakes along the way. A whole bunch of them. Read my book. My book is for sale out there. You'll hear how many times I've been married. Let's just say that I have practice. I'm experienced. Life experience. But I went back to school. I lived my life. I broke out of the mold a little bit. I fell back into it a few times. But finally, I broke through the outer shell, the zombie, the just surviving, the just getting through life, the just not telling anybody my story because I was embarrassed. And I started slaying zombies. And that's when I became who I am today. I want to tell you guys some of the things that you can do to slay your inner zombies. Some of the things you can do to have more confidence, more self-esteem, to communicate better. Because every single thing in life, none of it's important except for the relationships that we have with other people. Our life is in direct proportion to the relationships that we have with other people, with the people that are important to us. So one of the first strategies that I use is plain old simple positivity. The power of positivity. This is one of my all-time favorite images. Because as you can see, everyone has the choice. You can choose to be happy or sad. And I can guarantee you, nobody in here. This poor guy, he's like, but I can't move across the aisle. He's got 1,000 excuses. I don't want to sit next to that guy. He smells. They told me I have to sit on this side of the bus. There's 1,000 million reasons why we can't change. I used to say, oh, but I'm married to an alcoholic. My life sucks. I'm only 22. Who wants? I don't even like hearing myself do that. So the power of positivity. Listen, there'll always be murders, crime, disease, alcoholism, drugs. There'll always be that crap. But there'll also always be butterflies, babies being born, people falling in love, people flirting, people talking and smiling and having a good time. There's always something to focus on that's more positive. How many of you watch the news? Yeah. We don't have TV in my house. Oh my God. I have 5 teenagers in my home and we don't have TV. Like at all. I mean, well, they've been conditioned. It wasn't easy at first, you know. It wasn't easy, but you just train them. How do you do anything? You just do it. You create it and make it a habit. Let me tell you something. Excellence is nothing more than a bunch of really good habits. It really is. There's no key. There's no magic wand. You know, I didn't ride in on a unicorn. It's just practice, learning, and applying habits. So the power of positivity, positive music, laughter, LOL. I actually say LOL sometimes instead of laughing. That's how pathetic text messaging has become. And let me tell you something. I'm the first to admit, I love my phone. I do. This is my phone hand. This is why I need to hold something, because my assistant Carol's had my phone all day because, well, first she said, you know, you got to practice what you teach and just check out and leave the phone alone. But that's not really why, because I would have that with me. If it weren't for the, you know, the little credit card swiping machine thingy, it's hooked up to my phone. So she's needed my phone all day. I'm like, ugh. I totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, positive music. How many times are we listening to garbage? How we're watching garbage on TV? We're watching the news or Kardashians. I don't even know what some people say to me shows all the time. Like, I don't have TV. I don't know what's on right now. But I know it's not positive. Although I'm sure there are some good stuff on, I don't know, biography or whatever. PBS. Oh, Dr. Wayne Dyer was on PBS. I did see that. Post-it notes. Do we have any post-it note fairies? A couple. Do you guys know what a post-it note fairy is? I'm a post-it note fairy. I totally admit it. I have so many post-it notes, and I write mantras on them, and I leave them everywhere, all over the house. Not just for me, but for the kids too. Oh, I'll show you. There's a picture of it later. One of my favorite things for the power of positivity is my dry erase board. There's a picture of it. We'll get to that. If we want our kids to be happy and healthy, we have to be healthy and happy. It really is pretty simple. We have to model what we want our kids to be. Happy, healthy parents make happy, healthy kids. Yes, there's exceptions to every rule, obviously, but in general, if you're happy, you're healthy, you're confident. We're going to talk about self-esteem in a little while, too. Everyone's born with self-esteem. People are always looking for self-esteem. One of the biggest problems with our culture is that we're already born with it, and it's taken from us. But I don't want to get into that yet. Oh, no, let's go back to happiness and positivity. I have found some stats. This is cool to me. Optimistic salespeople outsell pessimistic salespeople by 56%. Is anyone in retail or have a sales business or anything like that? The more positive you are, the more you sell. Which is good because I'm selling my book, just saying. Students that feel happy before taking math achievement exams outperform everyone else. So you can imagine why I was so crappy in math, because my dad beat math into me, you will sit and study and learn this. I had math phobia for so many years, it was awful. Now I'm like, whatever, I can do lots of other things. I don't care. Give me a calculator. Doctors, listen to this one. Doctors who are put in a positive mood before making a diagnosis show almost 3 times more intelligence and creativity than doctors in a neutral state. And they make more accurate diagnosis 19% faster. Just by being happy. You know, I'm not talking about doing anything really difficult here. It's just by being happy. Oh, by the way, your brain is a computer, right? Has anyone heard of the law of attraction, reticular activator, that stuff? It's pretty common, right? We all know what that means. Your brain is a computer, so it always has to be right. 2 plus 2 is always 4. I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat always shows me a fat person in the mirror. I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm going to fail this test. Always makes you do worse on the test, right? It's because we believe it, we achieve it. So wouldn't we want to say, I feel great, I look awesome, I'm going to give a kick-ass zombie speech. Makes sense, right? Inspiration. Inspiration versus motivation. Everyone's looking for motivation. How do I motivate myself? How do I motivate my kids? What do you want to motivate yourself to? I say weight loss a lot because I used to be a health coach. I want to lose 100 pounds, but I'm not motivated. Yeah, because that's not realistic. That's not a realistic goal, you know. I want my family to be amazing and happy. I want everything to turn around right now tomorrow. That's not realistic. I'm all about positivity and I'm all about happiness and joy, but I'm also about realism. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Exactly. It's bullcrap. BS. BS. When life gives you lemons, go do something else with them. You don't have to just make lemonade. You know, but we're conditioned. We're conditioned to do these things. We're conditioned to say things, to do things, to respond to ads. We are in the trance state, and we don't even know it. And the idea is to break out of it. You don't have to settle for lemons. If you don't like them, throw them away. Go buy some oranges. Or make shrimp scampi. That's really good. Or lemon squares, forget about it. That's my favorite. So if you want motivation, find inspiration. Find people who have what you want, or who are doing what you want to do, or who have accomplished things that you're interested in. But stop trying to find motivation and stop trying to motivate the kids. One of the best ways, I made a video I'm teaching an online course called Beyond the Brady Bunch, Real Life Solutions for Blended Families, because I'm a blended family. And there is no solutions out there for blended families. You know, how do you take his family, her family, throw them all together and make it work? It's really difficult. The divorce rate triples once you're on your second marriage. Never mind, third or fourth. You know, and now the kids who have already been through a divorce are now just bonded with a new family member, a new mom, a new dad, new siblings, whatever. Divorce again. It's treacherous on kids. I've been there. When you read my book, you'll see. I've been there. I forgot where I was going with that. Okay, so, find inspiration, right. Inspiration. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So I made a video. This is how my life works, right? It's the teenagers. I blame them. I made a video for that class, how to get the kids to do the chores. The number one way to get the kids to do their chores, write it down, ladies. Stop calling them chores. I know it sounds really painfully simple, but it's true. Stop calling them chores. Call them responsibilities, family contribution, something like that. Who the hell wants to do a chore? It's a chore. That's what chore means. It's crappy stuff that I have to do, right? Nobody wants to do that. So that was one of the huge videos. Everyone loved that. Stop calling them chores. Get the kids engaged. Let everyone sit around, have the family meeting, and talk about responsibilities, and then follow through with your consequences, too. If you don't put away the dishes, I can't make dinner. Simple as that. I'll just sit around and wait, and nobody's eating. You know, my kids actually all do their chores. crazy. It took a long time to get. Even the extra bonus kid does chores. He actually does them better than anyone else, but we won't tell the kids that. Inspiration, tell your story. So many people are afraid to tell their story. I was afraid to tell my story for a long time. And like you and I were talking before too, I still get nervous. Every single time I get in front of an audience, whether it's 2 people or 200 people, I get nervous every single time. I have fear. I just do stuff anyway. I get inspired by people who come up to me afterwards and say, "Holy crap, I can't believe you said your kid had a big head," or you know, you wanted to kill yourself, or you survived an alcoholic husband. Like I went through that too, and I don't really talk about it. What do we put in a safe? Like we have a safe in our house. We put important documents, jewelry, right? We put things that are valuable, right? So how much value do you place on that secret story that you lock away? You place so much value on it that it owns you. It controls you. You're afraid people will find out. You don't want people to know. Don't tell your story. It'll be embarrassing. As soon as you start to share, you realize everyone else is just a human too. Because for a while I thought I was the only loser and everyone else was perfect, you know. And I'm like, wow, we're all losers. No, just kidding. But everybody has a story to tell. And if you don't tell that story, you don't give the gift of, to allow you to tell your story. Oh, you know what? Come to think of it, somebody told me a story a few weeks ago. She was at one of my book signings, and I told a story. I didn't tell this story, but I told a similar story. And she came up after the talk, and she said, "I want to tell my story." She's like crying. I'm like, okay, let's hear it. And she's crying. I'm like, holy crap, really? What are you going to tell me? Oh, God, 20 years old. She's like, I hate my life. I'm a zombie. I just go to work and do my thing, and I've been living my parents' life. I live on my own. I pay my own bills, but I'm still living for everyone else. I'm not doing what I want to do. And she goes, and the worst part is, I've never told anyone this, but I was molested. Now I'm crying too. I'm like hugging her. Oh, honey, it's okay. She's like, I'm so tired of having that own me. She said, I'm not sure I want to get up in front of an audience and tell it, but it sucks having that control my life. And you telling your story and talking about telling your story has made me feel like I can tell you. So I talked to her a while later, a few days later, whatever, and she was feeling so positive and so happy. And she was making some real changes, that quick in her life, just because she decided to start living and stop existing. She slayed her zombie. It was an amazing thing to watch. If you're not inspired by something, it's probably not your goal or your purpose. When I talk to my clients, I tell them, don't set goals, set a purpose. Goals are great. Goals make good benchmarks on your way to purpose, but find what your purpose is. I knew as a little girl that my purpose was to help people. I learned in my 20s that you don't help people by marrying them. But I learned my purpose. In my book, I talk about it. When I was in 3rd grade, I kind of kidnapped a kid, literally. So I lived in Germany at the time. And in Germany, my dad was in the military. And in Germany, we had to take the school bus home for lunch because the officers' club next to our school had been bombed by terrorists, and it damaged the kitchen, the back of our school. So they couldn't, make lunches there and stuff. So we had to take the bus home for lunch. So my best friend, Edie, told me that she wasn't going to get fed when she got home. Her parents didn't feed her regularly. And was like, you're coming home with me. You're my sister now. So I literally snuck her on my bus. And in the 70s, in Germany, on the military bases, there were no phones. We had to go to the USO to make phone calls. Like once a month we'd call home. So when I showed up at home with this little girl and said to my mom, she's my sister now. She's just going to live here, okay? Can you make her a sandwich? My mom was like, no. What's going on here? I'll feed the kid, but what did you do? Who is this? Where does she belong? I'm like, I don't know. She lives somewhere, you know. My mom couldn't call her parents. I can't even imagine how her mother must have felt when her daughter didn't come home. But I couldn't stand it. I'm like, no friend of mine is not going to have food. You're coming to live with me. So I knew at a very early age, plus I used to sneak in animals too. That didn't go over very well either. My poor parents. But I knew at a very young age that my purpose was to help people, was to save people, was to rescue, to fix, to do whatever I could to serve, especially kids. So find your purpose, your inspiration. You'll never not be motivated if you're inspired, truly inspired. Does that make sense? Oh, and KISS. Keep it super simple. Some people say keep it simple, stupid, but I don't like that. Keep it super simple. Don't try to save the world. You know, I tried to save the world, but now I realize, you know what? I can reach people. I can reach the world one kid at a time. I work with a lot of underprivileged kids, and one of the stories in my book is about one of the homeless kids that my husband and I took in. He actually jumped out of school window and never went back. He literally dropped out. He dropped out the window. I just thought of that. I never thought of that before. It's really funny. So after he dropped out, he was homeless. He was up in Ithaca. He was sleeping on the doorstep of like different shops on the commons and stuff. And when I found out, actually the first kid that I took in told me about this kid, and the first kid had already moved out, moved on, he's doing well, and he told me about this other kid. So I said, you're coming to live with me. Well, after he lived with me, he moved out. His dad got another place, moved in, moved out, whatever. Finally came to stay with me, and I said, that's it. You've got to get back in school, and you've got to start making some changes. So one of the metaphors that I told him about school was we were all cleaning. He was helping me clean out one of our rental properties, and I said, can you wash the floor? Yeah, great. I said, okay, do you want to use a mop to wash the floor or a toothbrush? And he looks at me like I'm crazy. He's like, the mop. I'm like, well, why not the toothbrush? He's like, because that would be way harder. I'm like, right, honey, and that's what school is. Your life will be way harder if you don't have a high school diploma. And that's all it took. He's like, oh, yeah, I get it. Okay. So dropping out is like running my life, cleaning my life with a toothbrush. I'd rather do it the easier way, just graduate from high school. So he got back into school, and he was declassified from special ed. This is not a special ed kid. This was a kinesthetic kid. I know what that's like because I was one of those too. I talk about that in my book too. Do we have any other freaky kinesthetic people here? Does anyone know what that is? Kinesthetic person is somebody who learns by doing, like hands-on learning. You know, you can sit and explain to me how to do something, and I'm like, zoned out, right? You can show me, and that's a little bit easier. But if you show me and let me do it, that's how I learn. And that's how this kid was. He was a kinesthetic learner. He was always doing handstands and backflips and stuff. And once we really established that, and I talked to the school and figured all this out, his teachers were actually letting him do handstands in classrooms. I don't think the administration knew about that part because they probably wouldn't have allowed it. But anyway, he was declassified from special ed. He graduated, and he's doing phenomenally well. I mean, amazingly well. This is a kid that was sleeping on the street. So find your inspiration. Tell your story. Help other people get what they want, and you'll get what you want. Has everyone heard that quote by Zig Ziglar? If you help enough people get what you want, you'll get what you want. Or get what they want, you'll get what you want. And keep it simple. Also, I told you I was giving you guys a lot of information. Raise your standards. I had to do this. Be around the people that you want to be like or who have what you want to have. You know, I had to stop hanging out with people that I was trying to fix all the time. It's not cool to be a martyr. I wasn't doing them any favors by enabling. We can't fix other people. Oh, this is my board. Communication. That's what we're going to talk about next. I have a dry erase board in my kitchen, and at the top it says Mom's Musings. And every now and then, like once a week or once every couple of weeks, I post it on my website. And all of a sudden, like everyone's sharing it and it's going viral. I'm like, really? My dry erase board in my kitchen? But people love it. And people are on this whole, like, let's get a dry erase board kick. Yay, Heather. I'm like, well, that was easy. I should start selling them. Thrill Me Thursday. There's no such thing as boredom in our amazing world. If you're bored, it's because you're choosing to ignore a life of incredible opportunities. So I put a board in my kitchen, and I post stuff like this all the time for my kids. I want to keep the kids inspired, too. Sometimes I write messages like, clean your room, please. It's starting to smell. But most of the time, I have a really positive message up there. So communication. Kids see, hear, and feel how mom and dad act, react, and interact. And they learn to do the same. A couple of things about communication. Stop complaining. That sounds easy, right? We complain about everything and we do it as a zombie because we don't even know what's coming out of our mouth. Somebody cuts you off. Oh, that's just crazy. Crap. What the hell did they do that for? And we're not even consciously doing it. We're just like bitching and moaning about everything, and we don't even realize it. I see some of you smiling. So it's true, right? Stop complaining. Focus on the good stuff. Here's one of the best things that I tell. Oh, and by the way, when I work with couples, and I don't have to work with both parties of the couple. I can work with one person and turn the relationship around just by working with one of the persons in the couple. But all the couples who come to me, 99.9% of the issues that they're having all revolve around ineffective communication. Explain versus express. Everyone's expressing their feelings. Everyone's expressing their anger. I'm ticked off. That sucked. Rather than explaining it. I feel angry at you. You know, whatever. I can't even look at you and pretend to be angry because I can't think of something like, I don't know. I feel angry at you. You sat in the front row and were really nice to me. But I hear this all the time. Oh, here's a good example. I had a couple clients, and he said, she said she wanted to stab me in the throat. I said, did you say that? Yeah, I really did. I wanted to stab him in the throat. All right, tell me the situation. Tell me if you guys can relate to this. So, she's at home, cooking, cleaning. They're in the middle of renovating their apartment, covered in whatever we call it, drywall dust, right? Looking nasty. He's out. He calls her up 5 minutes from the house and says, oh, I'm bringing so-and-so over. I bumped into them at the store, and we're going to all have dinner. What? I'm going to be there in 5 minutes. Woohoo! She's pissed. He has no idea why. I'm like, really? You really don't get it? But he didn't get it. And all she said was, you're a jerk. I hate you. I'm going to stab you in the throat. It's a little hostile, but that's what she was feeling. So I'd explain to him, she's not really going to stab you in the throat, and she's really angry because she doesn't have the opportunity to clean up and put her makeup on before you bring guests over to the house. So you're going to walk in with Joe Schmo, and she looks like crap, and she feels embarrassed. And now she's crying. She's like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, why didn't you just say that? Women and men communicate very, very differently. Women use indirect communication, and men use direct communication. So women, when we're driving down the road with our lovely husbands, say, do you want a cup of coffee? And he's like, nah, I'm good. And then she's like, she didn't just say, do you want a cup of coffee? She said, will you please stop because I want a cup of coffee? Am I right? I'm getting a lot of head nods. Right. That's 99% of the couples that come to me, that's their problem. Ineffective communication. Matter-of-fact language. That's the next thing about communication. When we're talking to kids especially, I'm a huge, huge, huge proponent of matter-of-fact language. Not making it worse than it is, but being extremely honest about what it is. For example, as my daughter Madison was growing up, I wouldn't hide the fact that her dad was an alcoholic, but I wouldn't call him a jerk either. So I'd say things like, yep, your dad's an alcoholic, we can go to Al-Anon if you like, or we can talk about this, we can, if you want to talk to a counselor or whatever. Your dad's an alcoholic and we'll support him and I'll bring you to visit him in the rehab. Not, your dad's a drunken loser. I wanted to say it a few times, but I didn't. I didn't want to make it worse than it was. When you take the emotion out of the language and you're just stating the facts, it becomes so much more effective. And then people can hear you too. Because have you ever been in a fight and all you hear is like the anger and the hostility? You don't even actually know what the words are that they're saying. You know what I mean? Like you're just hearing the intention. I hate you, I'm going to stab you in the throat. Rather than, I felt really upset because you didn't call first and give me an opportunity. If you had just said that, I could have told you to go for a little spin down the road and come back in a half an hour so I'd had time to clean up, whatever. And if she had done that, no fight, right? The last thing I want to say about communication, I'm trying to go a little bit faster now because I know I'm running out, is to use the sandwich approach. Have you guys heard of that? Toastmaster people have heard of the sandwich approach. That is praise, criticism, praise. This is especially effective with kids. Do we have a lot of parents here? Yeah? Cool. Praise, criticism, praise. It's so vitally important because if the kid walks in and you start with, you didn't do your chores, why didn't you put your backpack away, put your shoes away, they are either going to check out or there's going to be a disagreement or there's going to be a fight or they're going to ignore you or whatever. Or they're going to go right to the iPod, right to the iPhone. But if they walk in and you say, how was your day? I see that you have your English book or you're going to do an assignment. Good job on putting the dishes away for me. Whatever it is, something positive that will lift them up and then slip in the, by the way, would you mind, it seems like you forgot to put your shoes away. Would you mind putting the shoes away? Great, thanks. All right, when you're done, let's come down and bake cookies. I don't know, whatever. But praise, criticism, praise is so effective for everybody, especially spouses. Don't use the word but. Right, that's a little more in-depth, but when you say the word, don't say the word but, say the word and. When you're connecting the two thoughts, use the word and, because the word but automatically negates what you just said. Right? I really like your barrette, but your hair looks terrible. You know what I mean? So it's like, no, you're just all bad, right? So yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. But negates everything. Think about it. Nobody likes a big butt, right? So try to use and sentences. And it's funny, too, because I do that in my writing. I used to use a lot of buts. I've moved away from buts, and I say and now. And is inclusive. I want to get to self-esteem, because I could talk literally for days about this. I touched on it a little bit about self-esteem in our culture. When children are born, they are born happy and free. Isn't she adorable? I know, right? And they dance, and they don't care what anyone thinks of them, and they have fun, and they're free, and they're creative, and they're just amazing, and they're wonderful. But then we say, stop that. Stop it. You're irritating everyone here. You know? That's not polite. Stand up straight. Whatever. I mean, we start beating it out of them at a really early age. And I don't mean that we do it to be mean or bad. That's just how we are. That's how our culture is. It's unfortunate. And one of my purposes, one of my goals in life is to teach people to kind of get self-esteem back. You can't really teach self-esteem. It's something that you have to practice. It's just like I could stand here all day long telling you how to ride a bike, but you will never ever be able to ride the bike until you practice it, right? That's what self-esteem is. Genuine self-esteem is what we feel about ourselves when everything is not all right. We are a culture based on validation. We're what I call star sticker society. Did you earn your gold star today? Ooh, you didn't. So when you don't get your gold star, you're not validated, and people automatically assume that it's them, that they're bad. You know, we need to address the things, not the person, right? Some of the things that we can, let's talk about kids real quick because I'm afraid that I'm going to run out of time. Some of the ways that we can maintain self-esteem in kids, because like I said, they're already born with it, is to model good self-esteem. Because our little daughters are absolutely beautiful and perfect and adorable, and they look at us and they're like, you are the most spectacular woman alive. You are my mom, and you could never, ever do anything wrong ever because I'm 3 and I love you. And then they watch us look in the mirror and say, ugh, I look awful. What do they learn? What do they learn? I'm sorry? Right. Not to appreciate themselves. That, oh, mommy's not good enough unless she puts on her makeup. And mommy's always poking herself in her gut. Maybe I need to do those things too. Maybe I'm not good enough. So we need to start modeling better behavior. Even if you don't believe it, fake it. You know, if your little kid's standing there looking at you, believe me, they think you're the most outstanding, phenomenal person alive on the earth. Fake it for them. Look in the mirror and say, I look beautiful and I feel great, or whatever. I don't care if you're in your pajamas and bathrobe, no makeup, whatever. Because they love you and they see the love. They don't see this. Stop teaching kids to be fair. Nobody likes this when I say this, but it's true. We teach kids at a very, very early age to be fair, but what we really teach them is to make everyone else feel good, despite what you want. So I have to give you, I don't want to give you this shiny red pen because it's my favorite thing, but my mom's making me. And we force them to do things that make life fair, which is completely, can anyone tell me when life has been fair? Never. Never. It's not bad. Life isn't bad, but it's certainly not fair. It's not supposed to be. Right? So we teach kids that life should be fair, and guess what? Everyone asks me, why are kids today so entitled? Because teaching kids that life should be fair teaches them that entitlement. Does that make sense? Who said no? You don't get it. When people want everything to be fair and then they're teenagers and they're 16 and they don't want to work for anything because he didn't have to work, why should I have to work for this cell phone? I don't want to go to work because my friends' parents, they all drive really nice cars and I should have one too. It's that entitlement mentality that kids have right now. It's pervasive. Right, right. You know, we just need to stop telling them to be fair all the time. Life's not fair. We want to teach them to be compassionate, absolutely, and generous. And we need to say, well, You absolutely don't have to share your shiny red pen, but I want you to know that your friends would enjoy playing with that too. But it's your choice. If you did share it with your friends, they might play with you longer. But it's your choice. Kids are so smart. Do you know, I live with 5 teenagers. These kids can do everything. They are my, is the picture on here? All this artwork, these zombies and stuff, my 16-year-old drew those. He did my website. You know, he does everything. These kids are resilient. They're smart. They could do everything. 30 years ago, would anyone in this room believe that a kid could, like, build a hard drive 30 years ago? Right? Now they're, like, hacking into school computers and stuff. I don't even know how to explain it, like what they do. Kids are amazing and they're intelligent, but we don't allow them to be. Don't only measure your kids' success by grades. This one is so important to me because that's how my life was. My parents were great. I love my parents. They did the best they can with what they had. But I was never successful. Growing up, I never, ever, ever felt like a success because I sucked at school. I got really bad grades. I went to summer school once. That was the worst experience ever. It was terrible. My mom made me carpool with this crazy lady, and she'd pick me up, and she was just like, she'd scream, and she was weird, and I never knew what she was talking about, and it was just awkward. But yeah, so my parents, I didn't feel successful ever because everything was measured on grades. Now, if my parents had taken some time to think like, wow, this kid's like bringing home stray animals and stray kids, and you know, she's really compassionate. Maybe we should play that up, you know, something like that. Kids do amazing things, and even if they are hacking into websites and stuff like that, you can praise them on their abilities. And then criticize, you know, you broke the rules though, but that's pretty impressive. I don't know how you learned to do that. They don't teach hacking in school, so you had to learn it on your own. Oh, speaking of learning stuff on your own, my son Harry, he's a savant, not a savant, what do you call it? Prodigy. Thank you for beaming that into my head. He's a prodigy. He's 16, he's already been to art college in Rhode Island. He took a few classes, continuing education classes. And he's brilliant. And he draws pictures and he sells them all over the country to people. And he's had his artwork in a museum. And he does, I should have brought a picture, but when you look at my website, if you send me an email, I'll send you a link. But he draws these lifelike portraits that look like photographs. They're incredible. And I didn't pass that talent down to him. And when he wanted to take art classes, I said, well, that sounds cool, but why don't you go on YouTube and learn how to do some art yourself first? Okay. So he started watching all these YouTube, like how to draw, and then I was like, all right, he's really serious, so I'll get him some books. So I got him some Learn How to Draw books. He started drawing. I'm like, holy crap, did you copy that? I was like, oh my God, this is like incredible, right? He's like, no, I just drew it. I'm like, okay. And so then after I realized he was serious, that's when I bought him lessons. You know, I'm not one of these like, let's put our kid into everything. I want them to show me that they should go into something first, right? That's just my thing. So I ended up putting him into a few classes at RISD. And now he's this amazing artist who sells his art all over the country. And it's because I asked him, how do you do this? What makes you who you are today if somebody were going to interview you? And he said, well, you never told me I couldn't. I'm like, oh, proud mommy moment. So it's about our attitudes, you know. How many times do you say to a kid, and I've done it, I did it with Madison. Madison was my test run. The other two came, and I got better at it. I'm like, no, you don't want to do that. That's dumb, or nobody ever does that. Nobody's ever a successful musician. Thank God Axl Rose's parents didn't tell him that, you know. Yes, I'm from the 80s, Guns N' Roses reference. So self-esteem. Oh, another thing, don't overpraise. I was guilty of this one a lot. You know, oh my God, you're the best kid ever. You can do no wrong. Guess what? Yes, they can. Their teachers and everyone else don't think they're so awesome. That's realistic, you know. So be careful about overpraising. I have so much more to go over. Teach kids to self-advocate and to express their needs. Another thing about being fair is, like, we're not telling them to tell us when they need something. You know, we teach them by trying to fix everyone else and trying to do everything for everyone else and going here and always rush and doing. We're human doings instead of human beings. And that's what we teach our kids. We're not teaching them to relax, to chill out, to have fun, to feel good about yourself. I have a really quick exercise about people who cut you down. I'm sure everyone here has loving, supportive, amazing people, and you don't know anyone that's mean or snarky. But just in case you come across somebody that does know somebody like that, what I tell people is to pretend that you're watching a TV. You know, all that drama and chaos, bring it away from you. You don't have to engage in everything. You don't have to participate in every argument you're invited to. So pretend like everyone's on the TV and you have a remote. You can control it in that you can walk away from it. You can turn it off. You can change the channels and you can watch for a while, but you can turn it off and you can walk away. You can disengage. And that means everybody. You know, whether it's family or my mom or... No, I didn't say that. I not respond sometimes, sure. Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the situation. But I don't have to participate in everything. If you ask me a question, I don't have to answer you. And part of what I teach in my life coaching practice, and I work full-time as a life coach, this is what I do, this is my living, I teach people to detach, to step away, because every single thing that you say to me is about you. It's not about me, even if you think you're talking about me. You know, so we need to step back and step away from what other people are saying. It's never about us. I've given you guys a lot of stuff today. Does anyone have any questions? I could be here for days. In closing, that's my family. My husband Thad, that's my husband Thad. He's my very best friend in the whole wide world. We have so much fun together, and this Monday is our 3rd anniversary, and we're going away for the weekend. I'm so excited. And yeah, I had to find babysitters for all these kids too, because even though they're all teenagers, by the way, we literally are the Brady Bunch. He had 3 kids, I had 3 kids. They're all the same ages. So we have 2 19-year-olds, 2 16-year-olds, 2 13-year-olds, and then the extra 16-year-old, the bonus kid. But we like to have fun. We like to LOL as often as possible. And no, we don't have TV. We play games. We go outside and we act stupid. Sometimes we play games in Walmart that we shouldn't, like, you know, throwing stuff over the aisle. We don't even shop at Walmart. We just go there to cause trouble. But it's so much fun. So this is my book. My book has a lot of chapters. It's all about finding happiness and inspiration despite the chaos that's going on in your life. It has personal stories, a couple I told you about today. It has quick tips at the end of every single chapter, and every single chapter is instructional too. So now you know what a zombie slayer is and why I am one. And I don't know, does anyone know what Minecraft is? Do you guys have kids? Yeah, you know what Minecraft is. That's like a Minecraft head or whatever. So I asked my son to do those logos, and I said, can you do a boy one? And he came with this square-headed thing, and I'm like, what is that? An ice cube head? He's like, Mom, really? It's Minecraft. I'm like, okay, well, you're like a 16-year-old boy, so I guess you would know what 16-year-old boys like. Because when I speak at schools and stuff, guess what? Kids don't like to read sometimes. They're not going to buy books. But they'll buy books if there's a T-shirt involved. So we have T-shirts. So today we have the book and the T-shirt for $25. You can give the T-shirt to your very favorite kid, or you can just buy the book. But my assistant Carol is out there. On your chairs, you also had a little survey. If you go take your survey and just take a quick minute to fill it out, if you bring it out to Carol, my assistant, she'll give you an article that I wrote for free called How to Raise a Kid Who Hates Himself. It's a really good article. It's about teaching kids self-esteem, some of the things that we talked about here. So go give Carol your survey, and she'll give you that article. And I would really love to talk to any or all of you afterwards. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you.